So, what if you were totally conscious, but your story was just over? Today, we're going to dive into some really fascinating philosophical dialogues from characters who are trapped in that exact situation, a reality that's literally frozen in time. Let's try to make sense of what's going on in their heads.
So try to imagine this. A place with no story, no forward momentum at all. It's a world that has more logos, more words and logic than actual subjective feeling. It's as if someone hit the cosmic pause button on consciousness itself. And that's the strange, unsettling world we're stepping into.
Right? So, in this frozen existence, these characters are wrestling with a huge question. I mean, it's something philosophers have debated for centuries, but for them, it's not abstract. It's intensely personal. Is free will even a thing anymore? Or is it just a memory of a time when their lives actually had a story? And this is where a character named Cottontail just drops this bombshell with a ton of irony. In their world, anything seems physically possible, except the one thing that makes you feel human, free will. I mean, wow, that one line pretty much sets up everything we're about to talk about. A universe with endless possibilities, but with one single, soul-crushing exception. Okay, so to really get what they believe about free will, we've got to understand the prison they're trapped in. And listen, this isn't a place with bars and walls. It's a prison of the mind, an existential trap that colors everything they think and say. One character, the explorer, puts it this way: it's a place that's all words and logic, but with none of the feeling, none of that ocean of subjectivity that makes a story feel real. And then you've got Elf 3, who comes from a normal world with a real story, and they're just horrified. They're asking, are we frozen in time? Is my story just over? You can feel the panic. So when you're stuck in a place this bleak, it's really no surprise where some of these characters land philosophically. The first major group we run into, they're convinced free will is a total illusion. For them, everything is already written, bound by the unchangeable chains of fate.
And we're back to Cottontail, who really gets to the heart of the fear driving this belief. I mean, think about it. If your life is just some fiction that's already been written, what's the point? The real horror isn't just that you can't choose. It's that maybe nothing is real. Nothing makes sense. It's a total breakdown of meaning.
Okay, so if Cottontail is the philosophical brain behind this dread, there's another character, or maybe an entity called the Cauldron, who delivers the emotional gut punch. It gives us this dark recipe for reality. Yeah, the Cauldron's view is bleak. It basically says destiny is a fixed recipe for suffering. Life is just a mere trope, a cliché. And everything we do is pointless against this misery's slope. It's like we're all just actors in a really cruel play that has a terrible pre-written ending. Which, makes you ask, what's the point of even trying? Now, this whole idea, it's got a name in philosophy. It's called determinism. And it's pretty straightforward. The belief that everything that happens, including every choice you think you make, is just the result of things that have already happened. So that feeling of free will, according to determinists, it's just a trick your mind plays on you. But, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? Same goes for philosophy. On one end, you've got the Cauldron's absolute despair. And on the complete other end, you get this roar of defiance from Elf 2. I am psychologically nigh invincible. Man, that sets up our next perspective perfectly. So yeah, let's talk about the other side of the coin. These are the characters who look at this soul-crushing world, and instead of giving up, they do the exact opposite. They double down on their own willpower. They rage against that feeling of being powerless with every fiber of their being. Let's look at Elf 2. Outwardly, it's all tough talk, right? Psychological strength, hating cowardice, refusing to be broken. But if you listen, you can hear the fear just beneath the surface. They even admit it might just be a lot of bluster for not much reason. So this intense belief in their own will, it's pretty clearly a shield. It's their way of fighting off that deep, dark terror of being completely and utterly helpless. And then you get a way darker version of this with the Viking. He's got this super sarcastic tone, basically saying his violent nature is still there. It's just been civilized. He's still all about domination, but now he uses technology instead of a sword to do it. And just like with Elf 2, you can see this is all coming from a place of fear. The Viking is terrified of being assimilated, of becoming weak, of losing what he sees as his core identity. For him, exercising honest free will means showing your power, no matter how brutal it is.
It's a scary way of thinking for sure, but it is, at its heart, all about choice and action.
All right, so we've seen the two extremes, total belief in fate and total defiance. But what about the people stuck in the middle? The ones who aren't sure what's real anymore. They're just kind of lost in this echo chamber of a reality that feels totally wrong.
The explorer describes this feeling of being disconnected so perfectly. It's not about being powerless, and it's not about fate. It's the fear that reality itself has come loose. The absolute terror that you're not even really there for your own life. Like you're watching a movie about someone else who just happens to be you. Which leads us to Elf 3. And their fear might be the one that hits closest to home for us. See, unlike the others, Elf 3 actually remembers a world that made sense, a world that had a story that moved forward. And their question really nails the core fear for this group. It's the horror of being stuck, of having your story, everything that makes you you, just stop, frozen in place forever. The fear isn't about what's coming next. It's the terror that nothing is ever coming next. You just become a fading echo. Okay, so we've walked through despair, defiance, and total disconnection. How does it all fit together? Let's try to map it all out and see the bigger picture. So when you lay it all out, it becomes pretty clear. Each worldview seems to be a direct reaction to a specific fear. You've got fatalism from Cottontail and the Cauldron, born from a fear of meaningless pain. Then there's defiance from Elf 2 and the Viking, which is basically a shield against the fear of being powerless. And finally, uncertainty from the Explorer and Elf 3, which comes from that deep-seated fear of being cut off from reality. And this, I think, is the key takeaway from all of this. What if these big ideas about free will and fate aren't really philosophical arguments at all? What if they're just psychological shields? Shields we build to protect ourselves from what scares us the most. Maybe whether you believe in free will or destiny says less about the universe and more about you. Which brings us full circle, right back to that haunting question from Cottontail. And I really want to leave you with this thought. In a world that can feel pretty strange and scripted sometimes, if it really is all a fiction, what makes it real for you?